This week's Parsha, Vayeitzei, opens up where Yaakov is on his way. He has just left his parents' home under the pretense of finding a wife, but really this was a plan devised by Rivka to save him from his brother Eisav, who was still livid and wanted to kill Yaakov for having taken the blessings that were his. And so Yaakov is on his way, and we're told that Vayifga b'makom, which literally means he encountered the place. But Rashi tells us that the word Vayifga is a lashon of tefillah, meaning word that is used for prayer, that he was praying. And hamakom, as we know, is another name that we use for God. Specifically, we know that when there is somebody mourning one of their 7 close relatives that have passed and they're in Avelus, when we leave from paying a Shiva call, we say, Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch sha'ar Vayeitzei Yerushalayim, which means that God should comfort you, the mourner, amongst the rest of the mourners of Israel. And we use the name Hamakom in this place of uncertainty, in this place where we have these existential questions about life and everything, the big picture of things, and when we're trying to really understand and we're in a state of confusion. And this is what Yaakov was experiencing at this point in time. He had to flee from his home. His brother wanted to kill him, and his home was really his whole identity. We're told that Yaakov was Ish Tam Yoshev Ba'ohalim. That was where he felt comfort and anchored in the tent, in his home. Now he's forced to flee and to be on the run, and he has a lot of angst and issues and doubts in his life, and that's where he encounters God in this level of confusion. And this is indicated by the dream that he has. The dream of the ladder that we're told is anchored in the ground, but its head is in the heavens. And this is really what happens to us when we go back and forth, when we have questions, when we do have faith and we believe in the transcendental, the ethereal, and all that exists, but yet we're grounded in this earth with all the problems and issues that we have to contend with here. And he sees angels coming and going up and down, which represents the roller coaster of thoughts and emotions and everything internal that we deal with when we have issues. And God comes to him at that point, and he reaffirms the promise that he gave to the Avot of what will be, that we'll have this great future. But the interesting thing to notice is that when God comes to reaffirm the promise, he says, I am the God of your father Abraham and of Yitzchak. Now we know that Yaakov was the son of Yitzchak. Yitzchak is his father. Abraham is his grandfather. So why does Hashem say, your father Abraham and Yitzchak? And I believe that this is trying to drive home the point that this is something that we know that Abraham went through as well. Abraham went on Lech Lecha, on a journey also, where he had to leave his home and go through these great tests and difficulties of his life, of leaving everything behind and starting anew. But even more so, we see similarities in language. We see the words Vayelech and Vayeitzei also with Abraham, that he does these things as well. And even more so when we're told about the test of the Akedah, of the binding of Isaac. This is Abraham's first experience, and we see the word Hamakom, that Abraham experiences God on this level of Hamakom, where this is a time in Abraham's life where he's torn between the two in a very difficult place. And if we can find God in that place where we struggle very much with everything that we know scientifically and the facts on the ground that represent themselves to us, and with these loftier ideas of a promise and a future and a religion and a God and everything that can possibly get us through, hold us through, and make a future for us, because they're larger than the scientific facts on the ground. They're all about things that are spiritual and godly, and that at the moment seem difficult to understand, but they pull us through. And I think that's why God at this point sees it fit to tell Yaakov about this promise, because he's about to encounter 20 years of difficulty going into the house of Lavan. And if he has this promise, if he has God's assurance that things will come through in the end, he has a why to live, then he'll have the wherewithal to get through it. And I think that's the same reason why right before when God gives the promise to Abraham, and then he's told he'll get Israel, but then he has to leave it right away because there's famine. But he has this promise to hold on to, and that it makes the difficulties of going out of your comfort zone tolerable, because we can tolerate difficulties when we know that there is something bigger and something better in the future. And I think that's really what our nation has had to endure throughout the many, many years, especially in Galut, and that it might be really difficult and we experience great trials and tribulations, but if we know there's a bright future, which we're experiencing a large part of that now with our own country and our own people and our own advancements and a lot of blessing, and we know it's only going to get better if we can just hold on, believe, and do the right thing. It makes life so much more pleasurable and tolerable, and that is what I do. And I thank God every day for all the manifold blessings that he gives us along the way. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.